Good afternoon to you once again. Thank you for staying tuned. Welcome back now to the rest of the newscast. Today is World AIDS Day, and the River State coordinator of the network of people with HIV and AIDS in Nigeria, Blessing Chikozim, says despite the efforts made to curb stigma against people living with the virus, stigma is high in River State. Mrs. Blessing tells our correspondent that the stigma leads to emotional breakdown of those affected. She called on the government and well-meaning individuals to help curb stigma against people with HIV and AIDS.
I don't have transport to go to where I can access it. Some will tell you I want to stop. I don't have food in my house. In fact, that is the current that is affecting me seriously as a coordinator in the state, working with these people. It has not been easy at all on me. I'm looking for modalities, I'm looking for philanthropies, I'm looking for as many as will come up to ensure they help us out to achieve this. If government can help us to give us vehicle, how do we cope with it? There are a lot of need to display they need to do for us. Then when you come.
Meanwhile, the lead pastor of the Wisdom Place Church, Wisdom Osiri, says the church has a role to play in curbing stigma against people living with HIV/AIDS. He said the idea of perceiving persons with the virus as promiscuous has to end.
First thing I think that we should help people to be educated, to know what is HIV, how is it contract. Some people, stay stigma because they think everyone that has HIV, must be a promiscuous person. The next thing is to show unconditional love to them, right? Because it's a situation like this where we can share the love of Christ. The next is that the church should also train people, if possible, on how to communicate and interact with them. It requires a lot of emotional support.
World AIDS Day 2022 is being marked under the theme Equalize. The chairman of the corporate tells at the Port Harcourt International Airport, Waldo Chime Lambert, has justified the ban on e-hailing cab operations in the airport. This follows a series of criticisms by e-hailing cab drivers who have been harassed by the union whenever they respond to ride orders. Mr. Lambert corresponded that the e-hailing cab drivers who still come to pick up arriving passengers from the airport are going against the rule of the airport, which authorizes only the car rental union to do the pickup.
It is not you that put the law, it's the fan. As you can see, there are signage that has fan logo. And boat drivers are not allowed to pick passengers from the airport, but you can come and drop. Nobody stops you. But you picking, because there are people who are paying to pick the passengers that boarded the flight. So we are one of those that have made payment to FAN to operate legally.
It also says there are cases when these drivers are allowed to pick a passenger, and that is if they provide proof of prior contact with the passenger and not on their app.
If someone is being suspected of being a boat, it is very simple. So you a boat driver, I say no, I'm not a boat driver. Nobody. The issue is that, okay, if for me, somebody say I should come and pick him, like as it stands now, somebody called me, he's in Lagos, I am boarding, can you wait for me? The timing is different. Nobody stops you, once you say, okay, he has already called me, look at the text message, I say, I should come and pick, or look at the time the person called me. But some of them, when he says, please, they don't want to hear.
Yeah, that they harass online drivers who come to pick up their family or friends. Our correspondent also observed signposts around the airport banning the operations of e-hailing cab operations. In business, an economist, Tokpe Faswa, has taken a swipe at the federal government for blaming the state government for the rising poverty levels across the country. While speaking on the Channels TV interview today, said both the federal and state governments are responsible for the recent poverty index in the nation. Mr. also faulted the timing of the statement.
Yeah, it should be shared both ways. However, they're all too late in speaking. The government is rounding up. We're sharing blames about who did what, who did not what. Because the federal government also has a big role to play in terms of eradicating rural poverty, if that's what it is. You can drive down policies from the center.
It will open up the state economic opportunities in the future.
For the governor, the option is, do I take this money to the rural areas and just spend it there or something, and of course when you go to the rural, they tell you, look, you're hungry, and you may end up spending that money and people will just use the money to eat. Or maybe, of course, you can also do rural roads. And of course, in some of those, in the places like rivers, there are rural roads, I must say. The only problem they have, maybe the riverine area, the places where you have to access via boat and so on. They are rural roads. So those flyovers are not waste. If you ask me, they're not waste. They're probably opening up. I think we may end up opening more than any other governor has done in history. So you cannot call it waste.
Recall that the federal government yesterday accused state governors of focusing on bogus projects rather than improving lives in the rural areas.
And now we bring you news from around the world.
On the foreign scene, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi says the country will work to promote a universal sense of oneness while it leads the G20. India formally took over the presidency, which rotates annually between members of the group of 20 countries today. The G20 is a group of countries which meets to discuss plans for the global economy. Between them, the 20 countries account for 2/3 of the global population, 85% of world economic output, and 75% of world trade. On the news this afternoon, you heard Governor Wike to commission roads in Emoat today. IGP warns CPs against stopping opposition campaigns. Court orders arrest, imprisonment of army chief. On the foreign scene, Indian Prime Minister pitches for harmony as India leads G20. The news was edited by Martha Okere. Cloud gathering Port Harcourt this afternoon. Collect your PVC and vote. Your vote is your voice. I'm Kalada Kurubatubo. Good afternoon.